Lena Morris has always been a shadow in the crowd. But one day her violin made everyone fall silent. Not every voice is heard immediately. But when Lena started playing, the silence became louder than words. Lena Morris always sat in the last row by the window in the biology classroom as if she were part of the interior that no one noticed. Every day, the same chair, the same pose, the same worn violin carefully pressed to her feet as if it were not an instrument but a glass vessel with something fragile inside. No one really knew where she got that old case with a peeling handle and patches on the corners. No one asked. Linden Falls High School lived by its own rules. The loud ones win, the quiet ones are not heard. Here they valued those who joked out loud, scored goals, or at least knew how to pretend. Lena was different, a rustle in the noise, a whisper in the roaring stream of voices. Even the teachers forgot that she existed until they picked up the register. Then she answered briefly, clearly, without trying to be someone else. During the fifth period, during the shift change, Mr. Holloway walked into the classroom. The gym teacher with the perpetually unkempt beard and t-shirts with sports team logos, he rarely appeared in the theory of evolution. But on this day, he came with important news. Okay, people. He cleared his throat, clapping his hands. We have a talent show coming up. Friday. Anyone who wants to sing, dance, do magic, stand up, I don't know, sign up. We still have a couple of spots open. His voice, as always, was half joking, half tired, as if he himself did not believe in the importance of what was happening. The students perked up. Whispers, roll calls, someone was already slapping the table to the rhythm of rap beats. Everything was as usual until Mrs. Crane, the algebra teacher with the manner of a queen and the inevitable gray-beige sweater, turned to the window. What about our violinist? She said with a hint of venom in her voice, nodding towards Lena. Lena Morris, you wear this case every day, don't you? There was a hush of anticipation in the classroom. Someone giggled, another began to imitate the screeching of a violin. Even Mr. Holloway snorted without thinking. Well, yes, Lena. Maybe it's time to show what kind of instrument you have there? Do us a favor, huh? It wasn't a good-natured offer. It was a challenge. A joke. A cheeky attempt to make Lena a funny moment. She didn't look up right away. Her fingers tightened on the handle of the case. Ahead, 2 rows away, someone whispered. I hope she has a silencer. Laughter. Not loud, but caustic. The kind that gets under the skin. And Mrs. Crane added, like a cherry on top. Just kidding, darling. Don't be offended. Lena looked up. Not at her, not at Holloway. Just straight ahead as if there was someone important behind that wall. I will play, she said quietly but clearly. In an instant, the entire class seemed to suck in a breath. Even Mr. Holloway froze. Are you serious? He asked again. There was no answer. And none was required. Lena was already carefully placing the case on the desk and holding out her hand for the registration sheet being passed. She wrote her name quickly, evenly, as if she did this every day. Mrs. Crane chuckled, but there was something else in her eyes, not a smile, but doubt, maybe even anxiety. She hadn't expected Lena to say yes. She had expected her to lower her eyes, to shrink, as always. But no. The girl in the last row didn't run away, she stood up. After that, the lesson went on as usual, dinosaurs, drawings, paired assignments. But something had changed. Invisibly but noticeably. As if the air had become denser. Lena fell silent again, stared out the window again, but now her silence rang. On the way home, through the old streets of Riverside Park, she walked the same way, past shops whose windows had long since faded from the sun, past Claire's Burger, where the waiters knew everyone by name except her. A backpack on her back, a case over her shoulder. Inside, attention, not fear, no anticipation. Something was starting to change. She didn't know yet whether it was for the better or not. And on the corner, by the Jackson and Sons bookstore, a boy nodded hello to her. She didn't respond, not because she was being rude. Lena was just beginning to hear music. Inside, she was tuning the strings of the future. Lena's house was on the corner of Hampton Street, an old brick building that smelled of time, a mixture of wet plaster, cheap washing powder, and yesterday's noodles. The entrance creaked with every step, and someone had once tried to paint flowers on the walls, but the paint had peeled off, and now it looked more like burns on the skin of the house. The 3rd apartment on the 3rd floor. Theirs. She inserted the key into the keyhole, turned it, the lock creaked with resentment. The door opened with a light click and silence let her back in. Only not absolute, water rustled in the kitchen, a bus hummed outside the window, and the measured snoring of her younger brother came from the room. Is that you, Lena? Came from the kitchen. Mother's voice, slightly tired, but warm. Yeah. Have you eaten? Not hungry. Don't make me drag myself into the room. Lena chuckled. This was their usual dialogue. Her mother, Vivian Morris, worked nights as a cleaner at the Ridgeway Plaza shopping center. She left at 6:30 and returned in the early morning. Lena knew that no matter how tired she was, she always left clean dishes, sliced bread, and short notes on the refrigerator, hot food in the microwave. Don't forget to feed Marcus. Love you. That evening, she didn't turn on the TV. She didn't reach for her phone. She just sat on the bed, slowly took off her backpack, and pulled out the case. Its locks clicked almost like a heartbeat. The violin wasn't new, that was immediately obvious. Worn wood scratches, a barely noticeable chip on the fingerboard. But for Lena, it was a voice. Her language, her soul, her truth. Every evening began the same way. She would sit by the window, leaning her back against the wall, and begin to tune the strings. Without a tuner, by ear. Her grandfather, Walter Morris, who played blues on the violin in his lifetime, taught her to catch the exact note in the heart, not in the display. He always said, when you can't say it, play. When you want to scream, play. When you don't know who you are, play. He died when Lena was 9, but his music lived on in her fingers. Have you started? Mom asked from behind the wall. Yes. Then I'm not disturbing you. No speakers. No headphones. Just sound, remember? I remember. That was their agreement. When Lena played, Mom didn't come in. She just listened through the wall. And if Lena made a mistake, the rhythm was off or the note was out of tune, she'd give 3 light knocks on the drywall. No reproach. No shouting. Just a signal, one more time, daughter. Do it right. There were no blows today. She played clean. She didn't play for show. For herself. In her head, she heard the notes she had composed at night, hiding under the covers with a notebook. They weren't from a textbook, not from a classical collection. A mixture of blues, melancholy, and something sharp like a prick. Music of pain, shame, hope, and pride. She hadn't come up with a name yet. And why would she? This melody was her story. Marcus, a 6-year-old boy with tousled hair and wearing dinosaur pajamas, appeared in the doorway, leaning against the doorframe with a serious expression. Are you sure you will win? Lena didn't stop the game. Don't know. Why are your songs so sad? She paused for a moment, running the bow across the strings in search of the right tone. Because even sadness can sound beautiful. It's like they're crying. But not like me. Like the wind. She nodded. He didn't understand and he didn't have to. But he felt it. When Mom came out of the bathroom in her work uniform, the smell of bleach had already firmly ingrained itself into the fabric. She approached Lena and carefully sat down next to her. You play every day. I know that. But you don't have to prove anything to these people. I know. Is it true? Lena looked at the ceiling, at the stain from the old leak. I'm not doing this for them. And for whom? Silence. Then, for myself. For him. She nodded toward the old black and white photograph of her grandfather on the dresser. Mom didn't say anything. She just ran her hand down Lena's back and quietly added, then do it in such a way that you can be heard. They sat for a while in silence. Not empty silence, but the kind where sounds dissolve, leaving only the present. And when Lena picked up the violin again, she knew that every evening, every vibration, every stroke on the string was a path. It might be short, but it was real. Tomorrow they would laugh again. Someone would hiss again that she would nag at the ears. But it was no longer up to them to decide. Now there was only her voice, her strings, her truth. The hallway at Linden Falls High School was always ear-splittingly loud. Doors slamming, shouts from across the floor, a bell that sounded like a scream breaking down. But something was different that Tuesday. Next to the soda machine, the one that never worked, there was a fresh sheet of paper. The headline, Talent Show, Participants. The handwriting was sloppy, the marker starting to dry. A list, names, classes, genres of performance. Someone with a button accordion, someone with a rap song, 2 twins promising a roller skating routine. And number 17 is Lena Morris. Violin. The crowd huddled around the board. Some read out names. Others placed bets. Who will fail first? I'll bet on that kid with the street magic. Who's Morris? That's the one with the case. Always silent. She'll probably play the dog waltz and cry. Laughter. Lena walked past them slowly, as if through a thick fog. She heard every word, every intonation, and she put them inside herself. Not like wounds, but like firewood in a fireplace. Let them burn. A voice called out to her near the locker room. Are you sure you fit in? Elias Kim. A boy with a face like he came out of a bookstore calm, with the neat hands of a pianist and a denim backpack with a G key sewn on. He played in a music club, and sometimes at the school piano after lunch when almost everyone had left. Lena heard him a couple of times, but never came up to him. Yes, she answered briefly. Your own composition? Yes. He nodded, as if that was all he needed. That's cool. You know what the best thing about it is? What? They won't have anything to compare you to. That means they won't be able to say that you're worse. He didn't expect a smile, and he didn't get one, but she nodded, and for him that was enough. The air in the staff room was thick with coffee and chalk and pent-up irritation. Mrs. Crane sat by the window, leafing through the list of speakers. Who let Morris in? She asked, pursing her lips. She signed up, said Mrs. Randolph, the art teacher. She has the right, like everyone else. It's not a question of right, it's a question of awareness. She's not ready for this. There's an audience. Light, noise. But what if she is? Randolph grinned. She might surprise you. Crane glanced silently out the window, as if she wanted to see the answer in the maple branches. There was no answer. At home, Lena didn't take out her violin right away. She sat by the window, laid out her notebook, opened a blank page and began to sketch out an idea for the finale. The last chords weren't supposed to be just beautiful. They were supposed to be her words, what she hadn't said in all these years. In each glissando, there was resentment. In each double note, there was pride. The final note was supposed to hang in the air like an unshed tear. Do you have that "I'm going to destroy everyone" face again? Mom asked, leaning against the doorframe. Lena laughed through her nose. I'm just thinking. I thought you were playing. I am playing. Inside. Mom walked into the room and carefully picked up her bow. It's already all fringed. We need a new one. I can't afford it. And if I work part-time on the weekend, will I hire you? This one still sounds too. And I feel it. She ran her fingers over the crack in the block, like a familiar scar. Yes, it was old, but it was hers. You know, said Mom, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Not even to me. I'm not proving. I'm showing who I am. Mom didn't argue. She simply leaned over, kissed her temple, and went out into the kitchen. And Lena picked up the bow again. Meanwhile, the conversations at school continued unabated. Some were already preparing memes. Some were even planning to stream the contest. But amidst all this fuss and sarcasm, a new feeling emerged. Strange. Almost alarming. What if? What if she really knows how to play? Friday came with fog and the smell of wet asphalt. In the morning, Lena ate only half a toast and a cup of water. Her hands were shaking, although she did not call it excitement. It was something else. Something like a pre-storm silence inside. There's a crowd outside the school. Students with thermoses, with signs for their friends, someone with a shiny hat. Laughter, false bets, tense anticipation. The talent show in Linden Falls has always been about spectacle, not talent. About failure. No one wanted to listen, everyone was waiting for someone to stumble. The gym already smelled of sweat, varnish, and rubber. Paper garlands hung from the ceiling. On the stage were cheap decorations, a bench to sit on, speakers, microphones, and a piece of stretched carpet to make the sound softer. Lena was sitting backstage. The violin lay on her lap like a pet. She carefully ran her fingers along the fretboard as if remembering every note. Every transition. Where others were rehearsing, waving their arms, or putting on makeup, she was simply silent. Backstage, closer to the curtain, stood Mr. Holloway wearing his favorite baseball cap and holding a tablet. Are you ready, Morris? He muttered, pretending to be friendly. Lena didn't answer. She just looked at him, not angrily, not contemptuously. Just empty. As if he didn't matter. And she turned away. Mrs. Crane, who was sitting in the front row, pulled her sweater up a little and whispered to one of her colleagues. I hope she won't have a tantrum on stage. Or worse, be bored. The first numbers were in the spirit of a typical school extravaganza. A guy twirled a basketball to music, two girls sang a song from a musical, a slideshow with cats and memes caused fake laughter. There were attempts at dancing, confused poems, and one boy telling jokes that even he himself did not understand. The audience clapped out of politeness, out of pity, out of boredom. Some were already distracted by their phones. And then they announced. Next up, Lena Morris. Violin. Number 17. Silence. A few coughs. The squeak of a sneaker on the floor. No one clapped, not even mechanically. Lena stood up. She took the violin in one hand, the bow in the other. And she went. Step. 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 Someone in the hall quietly said, "It's about to start." She walked to the center of the stage. The spotlight hit her in the eyes, but she didn't blink. The chair stood in the middle of the carpet, but she didn't sit. She simply picked up the violin, placed it between her shoulder and chin, closed her eyes, and nothing. The first seconds are silence. Waiting. Sighs. Confusion. "She's scared," someone whispered. "She's going to run away now," whispered the girl with glitter in her hair. But then sound. A thin, almost transparent note, like breathing underwater. It is barely audible, but it stretches, grows, turns into a line that cuts through the air. The second note is stronger. The third is already wheezing with emotion. The fifth is like a cry suppressed inside. And the hall freezes. Mr. Holloway stops looking at his tablet. Mrs. Crane sits up in her chair. The student filming drops his phone, confused. The melody is unlike anything else. Not from a trendy TV series. Not from YouTube. This is not a cover. This is a confession. Each note seems to tell a story without words. Pain. Shyness. Loneliness. But then a break. The music changes. The tempo accelerates, the bow breaks along the strings, the vibrations become almost painful. As if someone from inside is trying to break out. Lena plays as if her soul is breaking apart and each fragment is a sound. But there is no falseness. Not a single mistake. Now she is a storm. And then, at one point, she exhales. Slows down. The last notes sound like the final steps of bare feet on gravel. They don't fade away, they hang in the air. The last one, the highest, lasts so long that it seems as if the school itself has stopped. And then, silence. Nobody claps. They just sit. For a few seconds. Like after a prayer. Like after a lightning strike. Then, one clap. Again. Again. And suddenly, the whole school stands up. They don't shout. They don't squeal. They clap, sincerely. As if they had just found out that there was someone real studying at their school. Many put their phones down. Some didn't even write it down, they were too stunned. Lena doesn't bow. She doesn't smile. She just stands there. The violin is pressed to her chest. Her eyes are still closed. And then she leaves. The scene is behind her. Silence greets her backstage. Even Mr. Holloway, who was never fond of trivial praise, simply nods. No words. Mrs. Crane, still in her seat, clutches her pen as if she wants to say something. But she doesn't. Lena drinks water from a bottle. With trembling fingers. Mrs. Randolph comes up and holds out a folded piece of paper. "You made them listen. Thank you." Lena unfolds the sheet. Inside is one phrase, handwritten. "When they least expect you to shine, shine brighter." Monday began with rain. Light, tedious, as if the sky was tired and simply dripping in frustration. The Linden Falls school smelled of wet leaves, cold metal, and something new, something Lena couldn't immediately name. She entered the building as always, quietly, with a worn backpack on one shoulder, a case across her chest. Only now they were looking at her. Not like before, with mockery or curiosity. No. Differently. Some simply nodded to her as if in acknowledgement. Some looked away. One senior even opened his mouth to say something but changed his mind. And by the toilet, a girl with headphones whispered to her friend, "It's her." Who? The one who played on Friday. They didn't point fingers at her, they didn't shout "star," but they stepped out of the way. And that was new. And strange. And even a little alarming. Lena ran into Mr. Holloway outside the teacher's lounge. He was wearing a tracksuit with a coffee stain and holding his ever-present tablet. "Hey, Morris." He cleared his throat. That was powerful. Honestly. Smart. She nodded. She didn't stop. She didn't say thank you. He wasn't offended, on the contrary, it was as if he understood. Everything had already been said on stage. A little further, by the door to the algebra classroom, stood Mrs. Crane. In a sweater, as always, with a pile of printouts. When Lena approached, she seemed to freeze. Then she straightened up and said, "Miss Morris, can I have a word?" Lena stopped but did not come closer. "I wanted to apologize. The way I acted," a pause. "A long one. It was inappropriate. I jumped to conclusions without knowing anything about you. It's not something I should be teaching." Lena looked at her for a long time. Her gaze was not angry. Calm. Very quiet. And strong. "You should have heard me sooner," she said simply. Crane nodded. No excuses. No more words were needed. At lunch she sat not in the corner as before, but closer to the middle. Elias moved next to her. Without a word, he simply handed her a bag of chocolate milk. I think you can choose any seat in the hall now, he said. I'm doing fine here too. He smiled. Next time, a duet? You're not ready yet, she chuckled and smiled out loud for the first time in a long time. Several students turned around. Some were even surprised. They had never heard Lena Morris laugh. In the evening at home, everything was as usual. Mom was in the kitchen, Marcus was with the tablet, cartoons were on mute. The violin was standing in the corner, silent. Lena sat on the sofa and just watched her brother laughing at the video of a kitten trying to get out of a shoebox. Aren't you rehearsing? Mom's voice came from the kitchen. Not today. Everything is fine? She thought about it. Then she nodded, not even to herself, but simply into the air. Yes. Everything is fine. She didn't pick up her violin that evening. Not because she was tired, but because, for the first time in a long time, the silence was enough for her. Several weeks passed, and although the applause had long since died down, not everyone had forgotten. Photos from the concert were hung in the hall. One showed Lena, with a violin in the spotlight. Eyes closed, notes in the air. Someone walked by and quietly said, "Here she is, the one who made everyone shut up." And Lena moved on. Now she knew. Not everyone can be made to listen. But sometimes one look, one note, one truth is enough to change something. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video.